all know that COVID has turned businesses inside out. Capitalize on it. Engagement is a strategy that can help us overcome our business's pain points that we all are experiencing more than ever before. Today, we're here to discuss the ins and outs of employee engagement with some really great resources that can help us make it a reality. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Kelly Blackburn, HR business consultant here at Morrison Garetano. I built a career in human resources as well as operations with various strong knowledge and expertise in HR needs, with special interests in employee engagement, training and development, and retention. I am also joined by Kathy Markove, president and owner of Markove Executive Training, who specializes in cultivating and motivating work environments with focuses on engaged employees that create a strong, high-performing team environment. Also joining us is Gila Paragabagar, Director of Employee Benefits and Corporate Development here at Morrison Garetano, who's focused her tenured career on people operations and has recently built our internal employee engagement team here at M&G. First, here's Kathy to kick us off in our conversation.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I have the best job in the world. I work with organizations to create motivating environments filled with engaged employees. And here's some questions that I ask some of my clients, and I want to ask you. So, how engaged are your employees? Are your employees meeting their performance measurements? Do you trust your employees to not only do the work, but to solve problems in a way that meets your expectations? Can you go on a 2-week vacation and the company thrives without you? Are you constantly dealing with dissatisfied employees and or difficult HR issues? Do your employees look like this? Your goal is that they look like this. An engaged employee is someone who is fully involved and enthusiastic about your work, and thus will act in a way that furthers your organization's interests. They are interested in your success and partnering with you to make that happen. This is why engagement, focusing in on a strategy for engagement, is so important. Yes, it takes an investment. So there's some funding involved in that, but it's a myth that it's all about spending a lot of money. Money doesn't even need to be the biggest investment. Your time is probably the most important investment, and ensuring that all of your leaders are spending time focusing on the people in the organization, and to put some energy into developing a strategy to up-level the engagement within your workforce. This is how you get to high-performing and engaged employees. Gallup is really the premier organization that has been collecting workforce engagement data globally for years and years and years. And in their study, the state of the American workforce, and they do this for other countries as well, but the state of the American workforce, this is what Gallup has found consistently, that in fact, 20% of the US workforce is actively disengaged. This means that people are actually sabotaging your success. 50% are just disengaged. They just don't have a lot of energy when they come to work. And only about 30% of the US workforce is engaged. Where do these statistics fit in your organization? And how can you change the ratio of this to get more and more of your workforce engaged? So organizations with engaged employees, they experience 62% fewer accidents, 50% less absence days, 40% lower turnover. Think about that. In this day and age, where it's so difficult to bring people on, the hiring process is so challenging. Isn't it better just to try to get people to stay and get them focused and actively engaging in meeting their performance measurements? 18% higher productivity, 12% increase in customer service. And who wouldn't want this? 2.5 times greater revenue growth. And this is been drawn out through other organizations doing research on this. So there really is a cost benefit to focusing in on engaging your employees. So here are some other ideas about what makes an employee highly engaged. And if you look through these, what is it? There are some things that we notice. Most of them have to do with the direct supervisor. A manager cares about them. Someone encourages their development. They're able to do their best every day. They have the equipment needed to do their job. They know what's expected of them at work. They view their job as important to the company. This all has to do with how their direct supervisor interacts with them, communicates with them, lets them know how vital they are in the organization. You know, the number one reason why people quit their job is to get away from a bad boss. Now, this is in blind studies. The employees aren't going to tell you, I'm leaving because you're a lousy boss. But when organizations like Gallup come in and SHRM and they do this research, this is the number one reason why people leave a job. It's because they weren't supervised well. So there's a really good focus in order for you to be able to engage your workforce. So these are the primary causes of disengagement. If you take this on, your mission is to, number one, enhance the relationships between your employees and their direct supervisor. To have all the leadership team, even the ownership, to spend time communicating with everyone in the organization about the mission, the vision, the values. And for people to express the important role that each individual plays in the future success of the organization, and to consistently demonstrate gratitude and appreciation for the role that people play. So here are some best practices. Provide professional development opportunities for everyone. And this is why I love my job so much, because this is what I get to do, work with organizational leaders to develop these types of programs. You want to start by ensuring that your leaders are skilled in professional supervision. Just because someone did a job really well doesn't mean that they can oversee and supervise others to do that job really well. It takes a completely new set of skills. And have you invested in that for your leaders? Develop a learning and development plan for everyone in the organization. And that can be internal on-the-job training, using your resources within the organization. But think about some other ways that you might develop a learning and development plan and put it in writing and let people know this can be something you can use for recruiting. And think outside the box. Of course, you could bring someone in like me, but besides that, what kind of resources are in your community? The Chamber of Commerce Leadership Program. Are there things within your industry, conferences or training? You know, it's never been a better time to do online training. And how can you hold people accountable to beefing up their professional skills in a variety of different ways? What about picking a leadership book or a management book that's really important to you or your industry and having people as a group read that? And what about starting a mentorship program, picking key people within your organization that you're really pleased with what they're doing and have them play a mentor role to a newer person or an emerging leader within your organization. It's good for the person who's being mentored, but it's also good for the mentee. This is how people feel, hey, I'm doing a really important role in my organization. Consider your HR function, however you do that, whether or not you have a full-time HR person or two, or if there are people who are doing that role, both internal and external, depending on your size and your needs. But consider that HR function as a strategic partner. They're your primary people to make sure that your people are getting engaged. Ensure that there is a clear path for career progression, both inside your organization, but perhaps you employ people who are entering into an industry and you can be their first professional experience in that industry, knowing that there may not be a path for them with you, but if they can get really good, maybe they can move on and up within the organization. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I have companies that I work with who think in terms of that, and they have employees who are really engaged as a result. Initiate a formal and informal employee recognition program. So formally, you know what this looks like: awards, special events, recognition of some way, but how can you get everybody engaged in that? So are there some more fun, more informal things that even your staff could manage for you, and get this culture of appreciation and recognition going among everyone? And then provide the best benefits that you can afford. So think outside the box with this. Of course, when we think of benefits, we think about health insurance and other things that Morris and Garitano can provide. But what about partnering with a local gym or bringing in some fresh veggie boxes once a week? I don't know. What aligns with the work that you're doing, and how can you provide the best benefits, and think of it in a broad way? So you want to value and take interest in everyone who works for you, and create that work environment and the structure around it that makes people get up and be excited to come and work for you, and demonstrate that engagement and loyalty. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gila from Morris and Garitano, because Morris and Garitano does a really good job of this, and it's very deliberate on their part. So she's going to share their best practices for creating this kind of engaged workplace.
Hello, everybody. I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit more about our employee engagement approach at Morris and Garitano. I know all of our companies come in different shapes and sizes, but something we all have in common: we all want our employees to love what they do. So as I go through our employee engagement approach with you, I realize that many of the ideas and strategies might not work for a company such as yours. So I'm going to do my best to offer options that may be a better fit for your organization as I go through this. So there has always been a focus on employee engagement at Morris and Garitano. If you're a part of our local community, you might have seen our social media postings filled with employee events and community involvement as well. But what isn't transparent, what you can't see, is our why. Our most consistent why we focus on employee engagement is we really want to make sure that we are attracting and retaining our top talent. This is a part of our continuous business strategy. Top talent, they want to be a part of an engaging environment. SHRM, which stands for Society for Human Resources Management, their research has shown that employee engagement levels are often determined by the strength of their relationship with their supervisors and coworkers, as well as their belief and in their own ability to perform their jobs effectively and contribute to the organization. This is a direct link to what Kathy mentioned earlier as well with the research she showed with Gallup. A highly engaging environment will set your business apart. Now I want to share our most recent why that's been added to the table is our work environment has changed. As we've moved into a truly hybrid workforce, we knew that we needed to prioritize encapsulating the culture that is taking us decades to build. So what worked in the past might need to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe thrown out altogether, or maybe we need to test out some new ideas. Now, if your company didn't have to tackle adapting to a hybrid workforce, I can guarantee you had to adapt to some sort of change that impacted your culture and staff. What we all have in common, we all had to innovate and adapt in order to attract and retain top talent. So this is how we got started. So few things. Number one, we wanted to build an employee experience team. So I'm going to give you, first of all, a high-level understanding, and then I'm going to share some approaches that you might want to try on for yourself for a smaller size organization. So for us, we started with the employee experience team. So we developed two roles. The first role is an employee engagement specialist. So their main focus is that they're responsible for optimizing the employee experience by developing measurement tools, channels, activities for employee engagement, and also maintaining a relationship with our stakeholders to drive department projects and engagement initiatives. The second role we developed was a learning and development program manager. So this person oversees our learning agency-wide by developing, implementing, administering learning programs for varying levels of individuals, including our new hires and our existing employees as well. Now, if you're smaller than Morris Garantano, you don't have to use this as the example of the only way to do it. But what you might want to do is consider an employee where this is a part of their role and scale down the responsibilities that we defined. A little focus will really go a long way. So secondly, next, our employee experience team created a vision. It was directly linked to achieving our business outcomes. The team created their purpose, promises, and principles. All were direct links to one of our key strategies to attract and retain top talent. So we really, as a team, make sure that every action that we take aligns with what we call the 3 Ps: purpose, promises, and principles. So we now know what the engagement work we want done. We have a team to implement it and manage the work. The team has a vision, direction, and budget. And lastly, we needed a company employee engagement baseline. So in order to set a goal, we need to know what our current status is. So if I'm trying to get to New York City, it's important to know if I'm starting Chicago versus Seattle. It's going to be a much different journey depending on what city I'm starting in. So we launched an engagement survey. The vendor we specifically partnered with is Culture Amp. So these are the key factors included in Culture Amp's employee engagement survey. I want you to notice something. This isn't a list of how are we doing on events? How many more happy hours do you want? Under each question in each of these areas, we ask how we're doing in each of these areas. And the survey is confidential. So to remind you of the SHRM research and what Kathy mentioned previously, employee engagement levels are often determined by the strength of their relationships with their supervisors and coworkers, as well as their belief in their own ability to perform their jobs effectively and contribute to the organization. Now, if you're wanting to gather your own baseline via survey, there are multiple vendors out there and resources as well. In fact, many are free. There's no need to recreate the wheel. Or if you want to skip the survey route altogether, you can gather insightful information just one-on-one with your employees. Here's 3 great questions that you can ask to elicit an individual level baseline. One question, what are 3 things that are keeping you here? Second question is, what is one thing that could cause you to leave? And the third question is, what is one thing I can do to improve as your manager? Now, whatever you end up choosing, the important part isn't the modality. It's what you do with the results. So what are we doing with the results? We shared the high-level results with the entire company. So depending on the size of your company, you can either have these conversations in small groups or in one-on-ones. I want you to focus on the overall health of the entire company. Don't have it be micro-focused. There's always going to be that small group of disengaged folks. Again, similarly to what Kathy mentioned before, she had mentioned that the actively disengaged is at roughly about 20%, unhappy no matter what. You'll likely be drawn to focusing on the disengaged employee focus areas, but they likely aren't the employees you want to build an engagement program around. Focus on the employees that are neutral and can easily be swayed to be more engaged with simple solutions. And also focus on those employees that are already engaged so that you can retain them. That's the purpose of this. So again, focus on those 2 big areas, 2 to 3 main areas that will elicit the biggest impact on the company. Now, you also want to share the areas that the company's excelling in. What's working? What do people love? What do people value? What keeps them here? These are also great talking points for your recruiters to sell to new potential talent. Show off what you're great at. And then you want to open it up to the company. Ask for ideas. Okay, these are the main areas we're focusing on. What do you think? These cannot be solved in a closed room with just your leadership team. Examples of questions that you can use in these brainstorming sessions. I'll give you a few. What are the areas of opportunity here? Another question, if you are in my role as a leader, what would you do to improve this area? A third question you can ask this group, if we were rated a 5 out of 5 in this area across the whole company, what would we be doing differently in order to earn this rating? So hopefully that gives you a few questions to get you started. And then next, what we do with these results, we take all of these ideas from our employees and our company and we incorporate them into our strategic planning. We want to remain transparent around the actions that we're taking and the progress the company is taking. An example of that being at Morris Giratano, there was one area, work-life blend, that used to be the lowest years ago. Now it's the highest. We were able to put a focus on it because we gathered ideas, we adapted, we listened, and now it shows that as an organization that what we focus on, we can move towards. You also want to create some management routines around employee engagement. For example, a survey calendar, town hall calendar, and when you want to include this feedback into strategic planning. Transparency is really important because it shows that we're not just giving lip service. Just like you, we want this to be a place where employees can build a career for years to come.
Thank you to both Kathy and Julia. We really appreciate your efforts in employee engagement. So just to recap, what do we know? We know that engagement is a two-way street. Engaged employees are those who are fully involved and produce strong work performances within your organization. Business investment means you must commit to both money and time. And it creates the perfect equation. Engagement plus business investment equates to multiple business successes in various parts of your organization. So now what? Well, change does not come easy, nor is it met with the best intentions, but you need to stick with it. Set the example that you want to get through it together, both individually and collectively. Don't forget, communicate, communicate, communicate. Again, that's a two-way street. The conversations and information that you will collect may be both positive and negative. Don't shy away from it. The negative is an opportunity for improvement. Create a shared vision that works and addresses all the elements of these changes that may affect how you do business and how to appropriately deal with those shortfalls. And again, act on it, share it often, be a constant reminder of your shared goals and why you are committed to employee engagement. And again, communicate it often. And don't forget the power of why. Explore why engagement creates value in your business to see how you can make an impact for the long haul. So now it's your turn. Time to move the needle. We're passing the torch to you and your teams to make an engaged workforce a reality. Thank you for joining us.